Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are broadcasting from the Thomas K. McKeon Center for Creativity, and I'm your host, Corey D. Taylor. My guest today is an author, and she writes about some of the most amazing topics. She's none other than Nicole Dawson. If you want to know what it's like to have a challenge in life but overcome, you come to the right place, so stay tuned because this is Up Close with Corey Taylor. Hello and welcome back, and we are here joined with author and entrepreneur Nicole Dawson. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, I'm so excited that you're here, and I know people that watch this show, they're like, he say that with every guest, but genuinely, I am excited to have you here because this might sound a little selfish, but I'm always bringing on guests that I would like to hear about their stories and what they do, so that is selfish in that nature, but it's okay because everybody responds very well to the show.
That's
so
right.
I have this thing that I'll always ask all of our guests. What have you been up to lately?
Well, I have just been a lot in my time in my kitchen, trying to create new recipes and get them ready for the blog. I just put out a cookbook that's an ebook, and so we finished that and put that out on the blog. So it's a lot of creating, developing, and that kind of stuff.
Wow, so you talked about you just finished a new book. What was your first book? I want our viewers to hear this. And then then this is why you're here, because you have a very interesting story how you even got into writing about doing these cookbooks. So what was the first book?
So the first book was called Sweet Cheats. So it was basically like cheating the system. So
Oh my God.
so for us, we have food allergies, and
Right.
I know we're going to talk about that. But it was really just showing you how you can basically cheat the system and eat delicious desserts without using certain ingredients.
Now, I'm going to tell you this as a person who stays in the gym, I bumped into you and your husband a couple of times in the gym, and I try not to cheat, but if you have a secret on how I can cheat and kind of bend the system so I can not, I just get this big old gut. And that's another thing is that you're a nutritionist, a certified nutritionist or coach or a health coach.
It's a health coach.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's, yeah.
And so, I've never met a health coach though that kind of has figured out how to get you to eat the real good stuff and
Right.
still get unless it's like the people that makes millions at Jenny Craig or whatever, or Weight
Sure.
Watchers. But tell me a little bit about the book, Eat Dessert First, because it's a weird title. So you go from Sweet Cheats
Yes.
to Eat Dessert First. People probably absolutely love you because the people that need to lose weight like me at times are like, yeah, where's that book at? Right? Like I need to get my hands on that book. So talk to me about that book.
Okay, so that book was just really developed because what I find with especially food allergies or when you have food restrictions is that it's pretty easy to say you can eat a regular meal. So, it's meat and potatoes or it's vegetables, and all those are kind of a given. It's allergy friendly. But when it comes to dessert, that's the hardest thing to figure out. And so I wanted to put some great recipes in people's hands that was easy to make. I mean, things like energy bites, they're loaded with protein and healthier sugars, or it might be using agave, or it might be using like a turbinado, something that's a little bit better for you than your traditional desserts. And then even using things that was using sun butter instead of loaded sugary peanut butters and things like that. So it's all things that you can have, whether it's a healthy smoothie, a healthy breakfast, it's pancakes in my cake section. It's just healthier versions of desserts and snacks that are easy to make.
Now that's real weird because I heard you just say a couple of names, and for those who are novice at this, you said healthy sugars. I knew about. Did you say what did you call it?
Agave.
Yeah,
or
agave. Okay. Not trying to be funny, but agave. That's what they make tequila out of. I'm just throwing it out there. But they make tequila, and I didn't know this
They
until
do.
somebody told me. But it's a sugar,
It's a plant.
right?
And so it's basically taken from the agave plant.
Okay.
And so I eat vegan, and so being vegan, you don't eat anything from animals or any kind of living creature, so honey would be out of the equation. So you could use honey instead if you have a trusted source that you use, but for me, I typically use an agave, which is still from a plant, but it's just a lower glycemic sugar. And you could also use something like a brown rice syrup. There's different versions out there.
Oh man, this is gonna be so awesome because let me tell you something. I didn't even know you were vegan, but now that we're going there, we're gonna talk about that. Then we're gonna get to the meat and
Okay.
potatoes. But that is the hardest thing to do is to be vegan because I'm from St. Louis, but then I lived in Kansas for like 20 some years.
Yes.
You see cows everywhere. Then you could get fresh cow, processed. I don't want to say the other term because might have some sensitive viewers, but you can get fresh cow anywhere, and it's like some of the best meat in the world. So I've tried to eat no meat for 1 week. I even got my youngest daughter roped into it, and she was like, "Yes, Dad, we're gonna do it. We're not gonna eat meat for 1 week." It seemed like I almost passed out every day because I'm like, why is it so important that we have meat with meals? So how long have you been a vegan?
It's been about 6 years now.
How did you do it? Like, inquiring minds are wanting to know. I want to know. That was a commercial, but go ahead. How did you do it?
Yeah, for me it started with the food allergies because we had to cut out dairy and eggs. And so I felt like then all we were doing was eating meat. And so it just felt really heavy. And then we do this thing at our church called the Daniel fast, which is basically taking out any animal products and then eating really clean. And we do that for 30 days in
Starving
January.
method, that's what I call it. Because
Yeah.
people be like, we're going to do the Daniel fast. I was like, what is that? They say, oh, it's no meat. I was like, oh, we about to starve up in this feast. But you do that. And so when you started transitioning as a vegan, because here's the thing that's so crazy. So I follow vegans on social media, on Instagram, and I always reach out to them and say, okay, it's great you're talking about being vegan. I understand that animal products have more of a load on your organs to try to process that protein. I know I can get them from plants, but can we get a little guidance here? No. One lady hit me back and she basically was like, look at this, look at this, look at this, and good luck with that. And I'm like, that's not guidance. So when you transitioned, how hard was it for you?
It wasn't too terribly hard. There were certain things I missed. I didn't really miss the red meat. I missed chicken every once in a while. I kind of missed the egg thing. But for me, it was life-threatening for my son, so it was just a no-go. Like, I knew we couldn't have that no matter what. Dairy's a lot easier because there's so many other dairy alternatives out there. When we first transitioned, I think because there's a lot of substitutes you can have for meat products, we did a lot of that. But then looking at the healthy side of it, it just wasn't healthy
Like
having...
soy.
Yeah, soy, and then there's tempeh, and then there's like processed kind of like fake meats. And so I started using some of those just to have the same feel, but it was just looking at all those ingredients on there was like, it's still processed food. And so we started taking that out as well. But transitioning isn't that hard if you think of all the things you eat during the day. I mean,
Right.
really, your plate should be half plant-based anyways. It should be salads and vegetables and greens. And so if you at least start adding half your plate being vegetable-based, then it's just a small carb and then a small meat protein. And then it's, graduating into making sure that meat is a clean protein, that it's, grass-fed or it's organic or it's free range. And you just start eating cleaner. And not everybody can be vegan, and I know that. My husband won't be completely vegan, and
But
that's
he's
totally
a reduced
okay.
meat eater.
He is.
Okay, well,
Yes.
if I could get to a reduced meat eater
That would be
situation, that would
great,
be
yeah.
great. My doctor told me, he said, I was like, Doc, how much meat are we supposed to eat on a regular basis? He said, well, about 3 times a week is max, and it needs to be clean. And I was like, I grew up where it was meat every day,
Right.
multiple times a day. If you do the math, that's 21 meals that have meat, and you say 3 times a week, like that's really cutting it crazy. But I'm really gonna have a lot to ask you because you're the first person we've ever brought on that was in nutrition. We've had bodybuilders and fitness people on and things of that nature, but they touched a little bit on nutrition. We've even had doctors that came on and talked about cancer and cancer prevention, a little bit of nutrition. But I have so many questions. But before we go there, so our viewers would know, you keep mentioning your son. And that was one of the things that drew me to your story because I actually had an opportunity to hear your son, your husband speak about your son.
Right.
And not knowing the severity of your son's condition and what you all as a family had to go through, your son had food allergies.
Yes.
But not just regular food allergy, like maybe the occasional peanut. And everybody goes in and say, hey, if it's peanuts, let us know because our child is allergic. But your child had like very, very, very severe allergic reactions to a whole lot of things. So take us back to that time when you found out that your child was in this state.
Yeah, so the very first allergy we knew of was dairy, and that was by the time he was 2 months old. That just started developing a lot of skin issues, eczema, dots all over his body. It didn't matter what we did topically, what kind of oatmeal baths. I mean, everything that we could possibly do, we tried. And then it was just his body will basically projectile vomit, and he'll kind of become lethargic. And so that happened when he was really, really young. And all the doctor told us at that point was just remove dairy from the diet, put him on soy formula, and kind of be good. And that was about all we were given. Then when he was 10 months old, he had two different experiences. One, he had just eaten a little bit of crust off of my kid's sandwich, and it was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which you don't really think anything of, and it was a tiny bit of bread, and his face just swelled. His eyes were swelling shut, his lips were becoming ginormous, he started breaking out in hives, and so we Benadrylled him. And then that seemed to subside everything. And then the second time was eating a little bit of a mini quiche, and it was at a birthday party. And again, I mean, if you go back years and think of the movie Hitch with Will Smith,
yeah.
that's seriously what this child
bad.
looked like. And he was 10 months old. So we did allergy testing right away with him. We were told he had life-threatening conditions, so that dairy, eggs, and any kind of nut had to be removed completely from his diet. And when you're looking at that, it's like, okay, now what? You know, every jarred baby food pretty much had some version of milk. You have to know, I mean, they weren't all labeled back then either, so you had to know every single word. It was whey, casein, regular dairy, and then all the other adverbs and, versions of it. Eggs, the same thing. You had to know all the different terms for eggs. Nuts are a little bit easier, but again, there's, every version of nuts that are available.
Now, I want to interrupt real quick because I think this is so poignant that I'll point this out. Because I'm sitting here listening to you, and when you just named all of the things that literally could kill him, in my mind, I'm like, well, what can you eat? What can he eat? And he's a little kid, and so quite naturally, he's going to want to pick out mommy's plate or dad's plate or brothers and sisters' plate. Mm-hmm. So where were you all as a family mentally once you did the allergy testing and figured out that, all of this, and this got to be removed. And then now that limits what the family or he can eat.
Right. So at first what we did is I basically separated our kitchen. So we had Xander's stuff and our stuff. It was different utensils, different cookware, his side of the fridge, our side of the fridge. Wow. And then there was an oops moment where it was 2 containers of milk next to each other. The wrong container went in his cereal bowl, and thankfully it just spilled on his lap, which was enough to break his whole leg out.
Wait, stop, hold up. He is that allergic that if it just touches his skin?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now that's the misconception, because most of the time when people hear about allergies, I always hear about consumption. When people's throats start closing up, and I deal with that from time to time, which I probably should go get tested to make sure I don't just pass out one day and nobody knows what's going on, even clear. I kind of shared that with you before. But if it just touches skin, he breaks out?
Yes.
Go ahead, because that's a lot, but go ahead.
Yeah, so his skin totally broke out, and from there we just decided, I'm not doing this. We are going to be completely allergy friendly in our house. We're going to only eat what he can eat. And it really was just a matter of, if we could create, our family should be a safe place. If you can go anywhere, you're going to go to restaurants, you're going to go to friends' houses, you're going to go to different locations. But the one place emotionally, spiritually, physically, health-wise, you should always feel safe would be your home. And so we kind of created this safe place in our house. And that way, no matter what we had in our house, we didn't have to worry about it. Because it would even be, what did I eat and can I kiss him? Like, you had to think back of, did I have eggs? Did I brush my teeth? Did I wash my face off? And so there was a lot of side air kisses and like that. What a horrible thing to not be able to kiss your child, right?
Wow.
And so we just did completely away with it. And the big kids were okay. I mean, they were 8 and 5. And it was just one of those things like, we're just going to do this because it's going to protect your brother. And just like we would do anything to keep you guys safe, the whole family would, we're a unit. And so we got to be in this together.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I know you just said the kids were 8 and 5. And this takes me back to a time, I think it was John Travolta when he was the kid in the bubble or something.
Right.
It sounds like even though there was not a physical bubble there, that's how you all had to live as a family. Like, if this comes in, these contaminants come in, it could be the last day we see him. Right. And what a horrible thing. But was there ever a time where the kids, the older siblings, kind of pushed back a little bit and said, you know what, so-and-so and them are eating cake over there before you did the cookbook thing.
Right.
I want cake. Like, did you ever get that?
When they had the option, so anytime they went out to a friend's house, they could eat whatever they wanted to eat.
Good.
They got to the point, though, really quickly that if it would hurt their son, my son, Xander, if their brother, they just kind of had that protective quality about them. And so they would just like, I can't have this, or... So mostly the peanut butter issue, if they knew they could do eggs or milk, they didn't fight that one at at somebody's house. So sleepovers were kind of freebies, and they enjoyed that. But everything else they were kind of good at. And I really started baking really quickly into it, because Xander's first birthday was around the corner, and I knew I was in tears the day we found out about his allergies, because all I could think of was his birthday's coming up, and what about a cake? And so I started learning how to make better cakes, and I started learning how to do the fondant, because, all my friends around me when we moved, they're throwing all these huge parties, they're having these beautiful cakes delivered and decorated by, outside bakeries, and we couldn't do any of that. So I just really started teaching myself how do I do this, and how do I create these amazing desserts, and so that I can bring them to a party, or we can have people over and it's not something cheesy or that tastes, crummy. So that's just really one of those things where I'm like, I know I can give them fruits and vegetables, and at the time, I can give them meat, I can give them beans, I can give them pastas, but dessert, how do I do that?
Well, I got a question, because he's a kid, and children love dessert.
Yes.
He's not always going to be in you all's eyesight. Him being so young, how did you all help train him to know when he wasn't around mom and dad what was good for him, what he could have, what he couldn't have, and how well did he do with that?
He did amazing with it. So we had a allergy bracelet that was on him, so he always had that handy. That way I knew if he was out of our eyesight or out of our care, that he would have the doctors, or if something was to happen, they would have to call 911, they would know how to find us. And so that was one kind of safety issue for us. The other thing is, he just knew right off the bat. He was 2 years old, and you'd ask him, if he could have something, and be like, I'm allergic. And he'd say, I can't have milk, eggs, peanuts, dogs, cats, cockroaches. He would name off this whole list of all the things.
And that's for real?
For real, yeah.
Oh, no animals?
Well, we have a couple pups now that are hypoallergenic, but there's certain allergies that it won't put him into anaphylaxis. But that was on his list of things that he was allergic to.
Could he go camping when he was a little kid? Now, I'm not a camper. I'm a city slicker.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go camping, but I don't have allergies. But camping, sleepovers, and so basically you all have to be like the CIA, and if he wants to go sleep over somebody's house, y'all got to go through and do a full scrub and observation. Oh, no, dog mangy, you can't, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So this is nerve-wracking. So that was when he was younger, and now he's how old?
Now he's 10.
Wow. And so he's been growing up with this since he can remember, and he's kind of got it down to a science now, I would imagine.
Yes.
But going into his teenage years, and you are dealing with this so long, the thing that was interesting when I heard your husband speaking, he talked about how you all found some type of method to actually help his body respond in a less threatening manner than it was when he had been growing up all these years. So I don't even remember the method, but I do know that it's important for those of the people who are viewing this, if they know people with allergies, to hear what it is that you all discovered. So share with us, what is that method and what did you all do?
So the method is called oral immunotherapy, which is OIT for short. Not every location is doing it, but we had first seen it on a television show of happening in California, and we were just praying and hoping that it would be somewhere close by, because we started toying with the fact of, do we go to California? Do we do this testing? Because we saw this little girl who is now able to consume peanuts after doing this therapy. So the closest came was Dallas. We started talking about it, and then we found out that our allergist actually was studying under the Dallas location, and then they started doing it as well. So what for us that is, we decided to do dairy first, because dairy's in so many things.
Right.
I mean, you think of goldfish crackers, Doritos, Cheez-Its, things that, you know, you get
The
all
good
over your
stuff.
hands, pizza.
The good stuff. No.
It's all over everything,
Right.
right? And so we did dairy first, knowing that if we could just take out that would be huge. And so what that looks like is you go to the doctor's office, your allergy, they set you up, they put him with an epinephrine needle, and then they had like it pumped ready to go in case he wanted anaphylaxis right away. So he was all wired up. They would check his monitor and check his vitals, and then they basically like a mason jar size of water that they would put like a droplet of dairy in there. And that's all we started with. Shake it up, and they would start with 0.2 milliliters. They would watch him, monitor him, and then do it every half hour up to an 8-hour period. And so if he could maintain that 0.2 milliliters, that very first dose, then I would have to give that to him every 12 hours for that week. And then I would go back the next week, monitor him before, see where his vitals are, and then up it to like 0.4. So basically over a period of time, we would, if there was any kind of reactions, we would step it back and then kind of start the next step again. We did that for about 9 months. So from what would have killed him, and I mean, literally, he went in anaphylaxis from touching the countertop at a restaurant one time. He went into anaphylaxis from holding somebody's hand that had touched, you know, we ate pizza one night and it was a icy weather outside, and grabbed his hand to make sure he wouldn't slip and fall, touched his face with his hand, and went into anaphylaxis. So knowing that with dairy, by the time we were done with this process, it was 9 months, and he was able to consume 1 full cup of milk, like whole milk, and he did it twice a day. And so now his dose that he has to have to maintain his allergies is 1 cup a day, and that kind of keeps him, it subsided. Like he still might have a little bit of hives, but he won't go to anaphylaxis with that.
Now, for those who are viewing and not medically literate, such as myself, I know anaphylaxis is a bad thing, but
Yes.
kind of describe to us real quick, what is that?
So anaphylaxis is basically your body trying to protect itself from whatever it's ingesting. And so your throat will swell up shut to prevent anything from coming back in. But as the result of that, you can't breathe. And so it could be death within up to like 13 minutes. Is kind of, I mean, it could be immediate if you don't have
The
something.
epinephrine
Yes,
pen
an
or something
epinephrine.
like that. Whew, this is taxing. I'm getting tired, just like poor baby, poor family. But this is the thing that's getting me. So the way to heal your son was to take him through a path of death
Right.
to bring him life. Now, I mean, I ain't gonna say that to preach, but I'm just saying that's some good stuff. So,
Yeah.
what was your feeling that when you and your husband decided? You see, I done got all comfortable because this is a lot. But when you decided that this treatment was there, it still sounded like it was very experimental, because it's probably not 100% successful with everyone.
Right.
And the fact that they had to have him with a drip, whatever, that can keep him from dying, as we're deliberately putting this into his body so his body can become immune to it. Like, was there this feeling of terror when you now getting from the doctor, now you have to be the one that administer to this all the time?
Yeah, and we actually waited a little till he was a little bit older to do it. One, we were going off of our doctor's recommendation, first of all. 2 is we knew that the other 2 allergens we weren't going to handle yet, so we've only dealt with the dairy side of it. But when we had to do this, the initial summer we were supposed to start, he went into a huge anaphylaxis reaction, and so we had to postpone that treatment until we felt like it was a little bit safer for him to do it. But coming up with that idea and saying, okay, now we're going to have you eat something that we've been telling you for 8.5 years that will kill you. Like, it was a process that we had to talk to with Xander as well. Like, you just have to know, you have to trust us on this. The doctors are around. And I mean, it made him nervous just as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mom, dad, from your birth, ever since I can remember, you can't eat this. At 2, he's got the rundown. And now you say, son, hello, we're going to help you get better. But we're going to have to give you the stuff we told you for like the last 6-7 years you can't have.
Right.
I can only imagine his mind was like, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Are y'all trying to hurt me? What are you trying to do? So, with that being said, man, that's some good stuff. I just got to take a minute here because I have 4 children, and I couldn't imagine, if they get any kind of little scar, I freak out. So, to have to deal with this for a long term. And you all, what is his state now?
So his state now is he can, as long as he has his 1 cup of milk every 24 hours, he can add other things of dairy. So he can go to a friend's house, he can go to a birthday party and have pizza. He can have, he can really he can have another cup of milk. He can have a scoop of ice cream.
So, Nicole, this show, Up Close with Corey Taylor, is all about helping people to understand what it would take for them to go on and be successful. And definitely you all are experiencing some victory and some success in your own respected arena. But in general, in about 10 seconds, what do you think it would take for someone to be successful in life? Because by default, in what you did, Matter of Life and Death, now you've emerged as an author and written 2 books. So in your own opinion, 10 seconds, what do you think it takes for a person to be successful?
I mean, for me, I think successful is really just taking what you've been given in your life experience and turning something good out of it. So, I mean, we've taken our allergy story and I created this blog so that I can create free resources to help other people. And instead of just shying away and living in fear and creating this little overly safe bubble for us, it's how can we use this to help other people? And I think that's just part of success, helping others.
Well, Nicole Dawson, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you've enjoyed our show today. I would like to thank my guest, Nicole Dawson, for joining us. Think about this. Change is inevitable, but your attitude towards that change, it is always optional. Until next time, keep looking forward.